Hi there. Now, I know it's getting a little late in the season, but my video last week on 5 books to take on holiday was so popular, and thanks to everyone who viewed and subscribed. And because of that, I'm going to recommend 5 more books randomly taken from my bookshelves, books that I've really enjoyed that I wish to share with you. So, whether you take them on holiday or on a long train journey or just books to look out for, it's up to you. But I think they're all pretty good holiday books too. So firstly, now this is a writer who I always look out for whenever she brings out a new one, and that's Kate Morton. And this one is The House at Riverton, which is, thank you, Tilly, which is probably one of her best known, but she has many others. And she is a writer who writes very much in the same subgenre as I do. That is a historical flashback or time slip novels where the story switches between the present and the past, and often involves families and ancestors, and very often an old house that brings them together. So if you like this kind of story and you've never read Kate Morton, then you will love these. And this is probably a good one to start with. It's set between 1924 and 1999. It's a mystery and a love story, and Morton has a way of weaving together the ghosts of old memories along with the facts of history and slowly revealing the secrets of the past. This book is about the mystery surrounding the suicide of a young poet at a grand English country house, and the memories awakening in the mind of a 98-year-old woman decades later. Always a good read. My next book is also historical, but this time set in Georgian England. Now, you might know Tracy Chevalier mainly for her best-selling novel The Girl with the Pearl Earring, inspired by the famous painting by Vermeer. She has written many other historical books, but I think my favourite is this one, Burning Bright. And probably the reason I particularly like this one is because one of the main characters is William Blake, the visionary poet, who also happens to be one of my favourite poets. The title is taken from his poem The Tiger, as in Tiger, Tiger, Burning Bright. A young boy, Jem, whose family have just moved to London from Dorset, makes friends with a more streetwise young Londoner, Maggie, and together they become involved with their neighbour, William Blake, who becomes a kind of friend and mentor, and they inspire his series of poems named Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience. So, if you like the poems of Blake, or if you just like Tracy Chevalier, or historical novels set in London, you might like this one. My third suggestion is a book that really inspired me as a writer because of its sheer imaginary genius, and that is The Time Traveller's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. It's not your usual time travel book, as the time traveller in question only travels in time within his own lifetime. It's an extraordinary story and explores the relationship between Henry and his wife Claire and their various meetings at different times in his life. To give you an example of the story, Henry and Claire marry when he is 30 years old, but they first meet when he is 36 and she is a child. Something to get your head around. And the book basically explores their commitment to make the marriage work despite this oddity. And one of the reasons I love this book, apart from the fact it's so well written, is because the books I write are also kind of quirky and weird, and it really helped me to feel more confident about putting my own strange imagination on the page. For my next book, I'm going back a bit This is a writer who was publishing in the 1960s, but I discovered her in the 1980s when I was in my 20s, and I loved her books so much I just looked out for them whenever I went into a bookshop. She is Mary Stewart, and the one I'm showing you is called This Rough Magic. I would call her books intelligent romantic thrillers. And while the protagonists are usually English, they're usually set abroad, often in a holiday setting. And this one is set mainly in Corfu. And starts out as a nice break away from London, which turns into a mystery and growing, life-threatening danger. In fact, my favourite of hers is Madam, Will You Walk, which is one of those books that is a real page-turner and a real growing tension and threat. But unfortunately, it seems to have disappeared from my bookshelf. But I do recommend all of her works. They are perhaps a bit dated now, but they are real page-turners. And if you like stories around the Arthurian legends, she also wrote a trilogy of books about Merlin, which are also a very good read. While we're on the subject of thrillers, then my last choice has to be my favourite psychological thriller writer, Douglas Kennedy. This one, A Special Relationship, was the first one I read of his, and oh my God. It's quite rare for me not to be able to put a book down, but this was definitely one that I just had to keep reading. The Daily Telegraph writer agrees with me as she says, I cannot remember a more compulsive book. I've read several books by Douglas Kennedy since, and they all keep you on the edge of your seat. He has a way of putting his main characters through the mill, forwards, backwards and sideways, with things going from bad to worse and from worse to unbearable, with tension that builds right from the start. Whenever I pick up a Douglas Kennedy book, I know that I am in for a real roller coaster. He's an American writer and they're usually set in America, but this one is mainly set in England and is basically about a marriage that goes wrong between an American woman and an English man, where she, the main character, ends up alone in London with a child, facing a lawsuit where innocent statements of the past are turned against her, and she finds herself fighting for custody of her child and her sanity. He has an amazing ability to write from a woman's viewpoint. So if you like psychological thrillers that will keep you up all night, or at least keep you occupied on a long train journey or plane journey, then do give Douglas Kennedy a go. I am sure you will not be disappointed. So there you go. I hope these have given you a few more ideas for your next holiday or weekend read. And I hope you enjoy these as much as I have. Let me know in the comments. Links to the books on amazon.co.uk are below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. See you again soon. Bye for now.